Hey, what's up? This is TJ. Thank you for joining me. Today I'm excited to show you the new editor for the ASM Hydrasynth. It is a standalone editor and it's also a VST AU editor that you can use within your DAW. It is fully featured. Been long waiting for someone to come out with this. It is from a company called Sigabort, and it is called MIDISynth-Hydra. So I'm going to go through all of the features, and I'm going to show you all the ways around. It's got some extra stuff in it that's really cool that you can't do on the Hydrasynth alone, so it's definitely worth a look. You can download the demo from them and check it out for yourself as well. If you like the videos that I'm doing here, please do share them and subscribe. Check out tjontheroad.com for more. I very much appreciate your support. Now, if you're wondering where the Hydrasynth, it's like way back there. So one of the reasons why I've been so much looking forward to this is that I can sit here at my computer and run my Hydrasynth. So let's get started with that. All right, here it is, the MIDISynth-Hydra version 1.0, new release from Sigabort. So let's go through how this works and how it's set up. The way it basically works is you have each individual module of the synth, the oscillators, the envelopes, the effects, the LFOs, the filters, the mutants, the ring noise, the amp, and the mixer section, all in their own little sections here. So let's take a quick look through these here. Let's start with the oscillator section. Now keep in mind the Hydrasynth is a very complex synthesizer, so tackling this from Sigabort has done a great job in getting everything that is possible with the Hydrasynth. I definitely applaud them for that. Oscillator 1 here, you'll see, you can select the mode, either single or wave scan. You can select all the 8 different waves down here. Let's say the saw as the default are all the different waves here. Really great, and this is great because, you know, with Hydrasynth you have to scroll through all these. Here you can see them all right away, so this is really awesome. Or you can go back to the single mode and you can just scan through here, say for example, or again you can just pick them. So that's really cool. And here you can select the semitone, the detune, off a few cents here, and the key tracking. And then you can select through the different oscillators. Very cool. Now each one of these modules, these little sections here, have a couple different cool things associated with them. All right, let's say for example the auto here. What the auto means is that if you change it on the synth, say for example on the synth I was to pick oscillator 3, it'll automatically select oscillator 3 on the window here. So that's very cool. So it means it's bilateral. In other words, you can actually work on the synth and then come back and see exactly what you've worked on within the software here. Very cool. And then it has this extension here. If you click that, you're going to get all 3 oscillators at once, so you can see them all at the same time. That's very awesome as well. Or you can just work on them one at a time. And here is an A/B mode. Now with A/B mode, what this means is that it'll allow you to have, with the current A, for example, whatever you're currently set at, or if you select it to B mode, it'll gray these out and it'll go back to the last saved setting for this given module. Now one of the coolest features on here is this options section, and this allows you to cut, copy, and paste. And one thing that allows you to do that you can't do on the Hydrasynth, very cool, it allows you to save and load the different settings for this one module. Very cool, very powerful stuff there. If you have a number of pads that use, say, the same sine wave, for example, or something like that, this allows you to just pull that up very quickly. You know, you can load it into here. Let's say, for example, I want to save one. Save, I come over here, and I can name it. There it is. I can name it. Sine, say for example, hit OK, and then when I come back, hit the option. If I want to load it, there it is on the top, and it allows you to have all these different ones. I think there are 10 of them that allows you to do that on each individual module. Say for example in the envelopes you can do the same thing. Very powerful system to set this up. Really like the way that is laid out. And again, it mimics very much the same, methodology in each one of these different modules. Next, from the oscillators on the Hydrasynth, you would go to the Mutants section in terms of the signal path. Well, you have the 4 different Mutants. Okay, you have all the selections of the types of Mutants here. And the sources as they do apply. Say, for example, on the wave stack, there's no source, so that wouldn't be on there. You have the ability to shut them on and off, so you can compare with the originally or last saved version of this given preset, and then you can save those as options, which is really, really great, particularly like if you do a lot of FM work and you have one FM setting that you like, you can save that and bring that up on all your different patches that you use that for. And the next thing in line after the Mutants is usually the mixer here on the Hydrasynth. So it has all this laid out, nice and big for you to see. You can select the filter routing, the volume, the panning, really, really well laid out over here. And then over here you have the voice parameters. So you can select whether or not you want warm mode, say for example, or not. You can select the snappy envelopes and all the different parameters that are in the warm mode. Excuse me, all the different parameters that are in the voice modes, the voice page. And here you can select some of the ribbon parameters and some additional system parameters, particularly for the aftertouch, say for example. And you can also, again, A/B those as well as save those. Very, very cool stuff. Next, after the mixer section on the Hydrasynth, is the filter section. Now here, again, you can look at both filters, so I can expand this. So I'm looking at both of these at the same time. All right, you can set them in parallel or series. The types of filters, right? In the case of filter 2, it's either low pass, band pass, or high pass, or low pass, notch and or band pass. So here you can set the drive for filter 1, cutoff, resonance, just like it is on the Hydrasynth, but on a much bigger scale right here on your computer. All right, and then you can add in the ring noise. That actually comes from the mixer. I should have mentioned that before. The source for both oscillators and the type of noise, either white, pink, or brown, or red that you want to have in there if you add that into the mixer. Here are the amp parameters. For the LFO amount, the amount of velocity that is applied to the envelope, and the overall level. All right, now back up here, we have some of the modulators. Now you have the envelopes and you have the LFOs. So let's take a look at the envelopes real quick. Okay, in this case, you cannot expand to 5 different envelopes. I guess there's just not enough space for those, as well as with the LFOs. You can't expand to see them all at once, but you can click up here and see them all individually. And you can set their attacks and so forth. Now you can come down here at the bottom, okay, and you can choose the way that you want to look at it. Here it says to show the envelope, or you can just show the actual values. So that's a great option. Here you can either show the values or not. And this is in regards to the performance page that I'll show you in a moment. All right, same kind of goes for the LFOs. You have the 5 different LFOs. You can select the different waveforms and the different trigger sync. Whether or not they're beeps, whether or not they're synced to the BPM, or their single shot mode. And then here you have the different effects. Now, one of the things about this that I had made a suggestion to them for, and hopefully they make this change, is it's a little bit jumpy. One of the strengths of the Hydrasynth is that its signal flow is very well laid out on the synth in terms of how you use it. It goes directly from the oscillators to the Mutants to the mixers to the filter, and then it has the modulators of the envelopes, the LFOs, and then the ring noise, as well as the amp modulators. This is kind of a little bit all over the place. I had seen a demo and or a possible new look for this in terms of actually having them all in one row. So it's an easier signal flow, so hopefully in a future revision, that's something that's coming forward. All right, so this is the main synth section. Let's look at a couple other really cool sections. We'll look at the modulation page. This is really awesome. No more, scanning through the different modulation pages on the Hydrasynth. There's 32 slots here. So this allows you to, open them up real quick. Okay, if you want a new modulation, all you need to do is come up here, select all from the different sources, select one of those, say envelope 5, for example, and then you select all of the destinations. Now, there's so many destinations on the Hydrasynth. This is a little bit hard to read. I do hope that maybe they can, color code this in little ways. They're all in alphabetical order, but if they can keep like all of the ARPs in one, say for example, and all the delays in one color and or the filters in one color, that may make it a little easier to read. But it's all there. It's very quick to get to, so that's really awesome. That's actually probably faster than working with the Hydrasynth itself. Next, we want to look at the macro page. Again, this is also very much faster than what you would be able to work with the Hydrasynth. Hydrasynth requires a lot of scrolling up and down, cursor moving and so forth, and back and forth to get this to work. But here, you can have all of the macros, the 8 macros, and you can have all of the different slots within the macros, page 1 and page 2. So from 1 through 4 on page 1, and from 5 to 8 on page 2. And you just have to select the destination. Again, from all these, say for example, you can pick any one of these. Just let's say, for example, I want to pick the, let's say the reverb, dry, wet. Okay, and I'll create a larger depth for that. Okay, and also in the same macro, I have it set for where the oscillator 3 waveform is changing. And then you can actually listen to it down here to see how it changes. So let's take a test here. That's without any movement. Let's do some movement on there. So you can hear the waveform changing in oscillator 3, and you can hear the reverb, wet, dry, wet actually increasing. So that's really cool. So this page is much faster than working with the Hydrasynth alone. So this is one of my favorite things within the MIDISynth-Hydra. Next I have this thing is called a V macro. This actually gives you additional macros for the Hydrasynth that you can run just from the software. So that's also a very cool thing. It works in a similar way. You just select a destination. And one of the things that's cool with this is that these destinations are not your typical ones that you would use. Say, for example, you can't really select a destination of a voice detune within Hydrasynth. But you can have that here. Very cool. You can actually select whether or not you want the warm mode on or off, say, for example. All these different cool parameters that you can't actually work within the Hydrasynth itself. You can also work the arpeggiator here. Just click either here or here in the center. And this gives you all your arpeggiator controls. Turn it on. All right, those are your typical arpeggiator settings. They're all right here. You can clock sync them from here. Very handy right here all in front of you. And again, here you can actually save those arpeggiator settings. Another really cool feature. Okay, within the MIDISynth-Hydra, there are a lot of extra features that you can actually use this particular software to perform on. And here you have this perform area here. So you can set this up to have all kinds of different things. You can do it within the macros here. You can set up a MIDI learn to run macros. Here you'll notice I've set the LFO rate for number 4. Now if you have a touch screen type of tablet or laptop, you can actually run that with your fingers. That's really cool. Or you can just use it here with the mouse. And you can set all these up for different types of things. All right, so if we were to go back to, say, a given parameter, let's say, for example, we want to use the cutoff, right? I'm going to right-click on there, okay? And now I'm going to map that to XY. So I'm going to map that to 1 here. And then you can come down to the bottom here. You'll see where it says XY performance. All right, you'll see where the filter cutoff came here. And now that when I go to the X plane, will govern the filter cutoff. But I need to create a Y plane, so let's do that. All right, so I want to assign a Y. I want to go back to the filter 1, and let's say I'm going to do that to the resonance. So now you see this dot show up. So now you can create a performance control within the software. Very, very cool stuff. And if you are working within your DAW, you can actually have that set up within the DAW. And over here, you'll see that you can also set up assignments for different parameters that can be assigned. Let's just say, for example, I want to go to the mixer and I want to put some noise in here. So now this one is set up for noise. So I can have a slider for that. So in that case, if I want to add noise, I can do that. That's something that you really even can't do on the synth itself. Very, very cool functions here. Down here, you have the randoms. This is the, some cool randomized functions. There's a lot of things going on here. I don't want to hit all of them. But the idea is that you can do randomizations either from absolute or relative. You can randomize from 2 different presets, or you can morph through 2 different presets. Stuff is really, really cool. A lot of extra features that you can't get on the Hydrasynth by itself. So this is a really full-featured editor. All right, down here you can assign your favorites. And you can go into the browse here, or you can go into all of the different presets that you have. You can do organize them. Very similar to what you can do, say, with the ASM Hydrasynth Manager. You can do that all within the MIDISynth-Hydra. So if you hit the organize here, it brings up this big page here. And the green ones are the individual ones that don't have any duplicates. If you have a duplicate, you'll see here I have a duplicate here from the one up front. It shows up in this kind of like, reddish color. All right, so we'll close that out. Show you a couple other really cool functions. We'll go back over here to the top here, and you'll see it says user. And what this is you can actually create your own user dials here that you can set up for it. See here I've set up for the voice vibrate and the voice amount. I've set up where I can turn on and off the random phase or not, and the glide, and the amount of glide time. If you want to edit that, just click edit here. You can select, a different parameter. I'll come up here. Let's just say, for example, I want to select, I don't know, let's say. I want to turn on the snap, say, for the envelopes. All right, that's on here, so I can select that. Let's try to pick one more. If I want to select, say, the oscillator 1 wave, and turn that on, I can make that into a slider. And you can have several pages of these. So if you fill this all up, you can have several pages, as many as 6 of those. And you see on the bottom here, it says snapshots. These are where you can create a snapshot of each one of these 6 pages. So if you really want to fill this up, you can set up different actual presets within the presets, I guess you could say, snapshots within the pages, and you can really go wild in terms of the amount of dials and or parameters that you want to assign here. All right, let's go back. You'll see here, this is a keys mode, so you can actually set up a keyboard. All right, and there's different types for whatever way that you flavor using the software to play the keyboard, play the Hydrasynth. All right, let's go back to the settings. So you can see right down here is your patch organization. You can load banks, you can save banks, you can audition. All right, there's this fetch function, which basically what that does is it takes all the information from the Hydrasynth and it loads it into the software so that they are in sync. Okay, I just want to finish up with some pros and cons of the MIDISynth-Hydra. The things that I like the most, the pros, are the saving the selection presets. This option menu right here is really, really awesome. That can save you a lot of time, particularly if you want to create a whole group of different sounding presets, but that are somewhat similar in terms of, one module or another. That's really, really awesome. The auto modes and the expanding modes are really, really great. Lets you look at the different sections all at one. And or if you want to actually run the software from your Hydrasynth, it allows you to do that with the auto mode. Another great thing is the macro editing. This is really awesome. I always found that with the Hydrasynth, the macros were very, very powerful, but they're very tedious to actually set up. They take a little bit of time. This is really going to make this a lot faster, and it's going to make it a lot more fun to use the macros, as well as the mod matrix as well. And then some of the random functions and the more functions. This stuff is really fun. Actually takes the randomize function from the Hydrasynth and takes it to another level. All right, some cons. Cons to me are always kind of like wish list items, particularly with software. Again, this is only the version 1.0, so there's a lot of things that they can do, with this. I guess my biggest, con per se or wish list is the signal flow, the ability to see the oscillators going into the Mutants, going into the mixer, going into the filters and so forth, all the way down through the, the amp and then the modifiers. This layout is not like the strength of the Hydrasynth, where that is all laid out in a very, very succinct way. One other wish list I like to see is that I wish you could just right click on the given parameter and it would be able to set up a mod destination. So that's something I would like to see as well. In regards to the destinations, let's go back to the mod matrix here. As I said, that is a lot to see. That's a lot there. That's not the fault of the designer or the software. It is the fault or the benefit of from Hydrasynth. There's a lot there. There could be a better way possibly to read that, either through some color coding or some other way. So hopefully they can do that. So let's close that out. Go back to the synth. I think they can probably do the expanded modes of the LFOs as well as the envelopes. So they can look at all at once. Hopefully they can add that in there. And one other function that I like to see is, my favorite thing, as I said before, is the ability to save this. But for example, if you have the filter section, let's expand that. I'd like to be able to save both 1 and 2 as one given save. So that's actually as a full module as opposed to individually. So that would be really, really cool. Now, one of my both pros and cons per se is the given skin. I'm always a little particular about this. This allows you to have several different skins. The first one, second one, let's go through them all. Third one is my favorite. Fourth. And the fifth different skin. But I do wish you can change some of the colors. That's just a minor thing, but something I like to see. I usually like to work with lighter colors. Just my eyesight works better with that way. Some people are colorblind, so that sometimes can make it better in terms of their contrast. I'm not that way, but I do think that would make this, something a little bit of a nice option to have. Now, in regards to bugs, I haven't noticed many bugs yet. There's a couple ones. There's a macro naming bug I've noticed. If you name a macro, down here, it doesn't come up the same as where on the Hydrasynth as what you name it here. I can't get the latch to work on the arpeggiator. So that's only really 2 bugs that I've noticed. If there's anything else, it's not to be unexpected. It's no big deal. The thing works really, really well, and I think it's an awesome first release. Well, hey, that's it. It's the new MIDI editor from Sigabort MIDISynth-Hydra for the ASM Hydrasynth. Really, really cool, full-featured for version 1.0. This thing's got the boss, I'm telling you what, to get the job done. So definitely worthwhile, I think. Thanks for watching the video. Again, please do share it, subscribe to the channel, check out tjontheroad.com for more. I so much appreciate your support, and I will see you next time.